Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Get Jashed. So today I have with me Alicia Lauren. Alicia is a licensed therapist turned embodied human design expert who helps women activate their personal power, leverage their gifts, and expand through energetic mastery. She's also certified in theta healing, breathwork, Akashic records, neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, Reiki, and is also a fellow soul flow embodiment practitioner too. So I'm excited to have this conversation because there's a lot in here, and I feel like we can go to a lot of depth. But first of all, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on.
Oh, I'm so glad. So there is a lot of like breadth in your skills and your qualifications, and I'm really curious because you've come from that, well, you are still a licensed therapist, so you've come from that therapist position, which is very, for lack of a better word that's coming to me, like structured in a way. It's very structured, very defined in what the role is and everything. And you've moved into a lot of this embodiment work, which speaks to me as well. So I see, and we were having this conversation prior to recording, but I see that bridging of the two worlds in a really beautiful way that weaves together, that helps people even more. But I'm really curious of what that transition from therapist to embodied human design expert felt like for you, and any, like, what was the shift that maybe like that was the catalyst for it, and what was the difference that you felt once you started to really own that part?
Good question. Well, yeah, I agree that I feel like it seems so different, like on the outside, like therapist and someone who does like human design, but it was really kind of like a natural flow for me. So I became a licensed clinical social worker. I first went to undergrad, I thought I was going to med school, so I thought I was going to be a doctor. Then I moved to psychiatrist. Then I moved to psychologist, and then I moved to social work, and then becoming a therapist. And I also worked in the hospital in the intensive care unit, like helping families cope, make decisions, and things like that. So I really got into therapy and psychology, just wanting to understand myself and understand others around me. I think a lot of times when people have, somewhat of difficult childhood, it kind of makes you like go internally and just try to like figure out what the heck is even going on. And for me, now I know that I'm a projector, but before I was like, I wanted to help people. I wanted to help myself understand. And I just like intuitively knew that like there was something to our mental health that just affected like everything, like the way we think and how we show up. So I did spend about 7 years with a hospital and insurance and hospital together over here in California. And with therapy, I was finding it, and the word you used was really good, structured. I would have used probably like a little bit of a different word. Yes, very structured. And especially like I did not have my own private practice. So I was working for a hospital, and that's even more structured. And, I started just waking up to, there's just actually like so much more than mindset like going on here too. And so during that time, I had my own little spiritual awakening. I started meditating. I started with the Headspace app, just meditating like 5 times a day, or 5 minutes a day. And that like led
I was going to say 5 times a day. That's plenty. And people are like, holy hell, I can't even do it once.
5 minutes a day. I started with 5 minutes a day on Headspace. Yes, 5 minutes a day only. And then I really started like waking up to like my own patterns and just a lot of like dysfunction in my relationship. And we ended up splitting. And I went into this whole spiritual awakening self, just trying to find truth. Like I knew that a lot of what I was attracting and continuing to perpetuate, like in my own life and my relationships. Like I started to see patterns. And it's so funny because like the spiritual path isn't all like meditation, and it's actually like going deep and like looking at the things that don't work.
It's a shit show, like really.
I was gonna say it's a shit storm. Yeah. It's like you think you're meditating, but then you start waking up to really like personal accountability too, like taking responsibility for your own life and the things that you're creating. And not to say that things don't happen, but we definitely have more power over our life experience than I had ever known before. And so while I was working full time, I think it was the first thing I did was like I did Reiki. So I had like the mindset side, and then or like the psychology side, and then the energy side. And then I loved theta healing. Theta healing is a modality where you guide someone. It's almost like hypnosis. You guide them into the theta brainwave, and then you like dig around to see some like limiting beliefs, replace them. A lot of the subconscious work, the healing that goes. So it's kind of like a spiritual and mixed with like NLP.
Yeah, it would go really well with NLP.
Like,
yeah.
And I did NLP as well. And so really all this was kind of like leading to everything that we think and who we are, like has kind of been told to us a lot of the time. And we've been super, super conditioned, whether that's like good or for bad, but either way, there's just so much conditioning. And helping people to wake up to their ability to choose how they respond, how they react, how they just be. I didn't know for the longest time that I was able to choose this. Like I, for a long time, thought that life was happening to me, even as like, you know, going through school and stuff. Like I still had this in the back of my mind that I was just kind of like in survival mode, just trying to like get through life. And so shifting to like more recent, I think how I also learn about myself is like to help other people with it too. So I just would I started, even when I was working full time, I started doing theta healing and Reiki on like as a side business, not really like knowing where it was going to lead. And while that's going on, you know, as I think we become more aware of our potential and just broaden our perspective, anything that's not in alignment just becomes like super loud and super obvious and almost like unbearable.
Yeah, it's like those moments where you're like, oh shit, how have I been allowing this to continue for so long, because it suddenly seems so obvious. And then you get to the point where you're like, unbearable is the right word, because you're like, how I can't handle this anymore. I don't want to put up with this anymore. And it feels like you're in a big fire.
Exactly. And then it's like, then you have to reparent yourself, like having compassion for all the things, like when you start waking up, you're like, oh shit, like I've been putting up with this, like this is where like you just see it all at one time. It can be like overwhelming, but like, you know, having compassion with ourselves and being like, okay, like, so what do we, you know, do now? Like, what do we want to do? I really felt like the interesting part of my job toward the end was that I was getting a lot of praise for the role that I was in, but I was freaking exhausted. I was exhausted. I did not feel like I was using my gifts. Like it was almost like I was like being, you know, families and doctors would, you know, I had a really good relationship with them. And, but I felt like I was being, it was like, I was almost being like not authentic because I was just following a structure that someone else had given me. And I could not go outside of that. So this this kind of unease, like feeling that I'm not in alignment just kept getting like louder and louder. So I was like, okay, so I was kind of like into astrology. I was doing theta healing. I was doing breath work. Okay, now I'm into breath work too now. So many things going on.
Which is a lot of somatic stuff already,
like,
right?
Yes. And I was doing the soul flow.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, there you
go. Trained in soulful. I was still in, I was really like, but
you're doing it all. That
now
was
that I
me
learned
last year too.
now that I know human design, my own human design, like I understand why I did all these things, but something about like somebody, like so many people had been talking about human design and I did not have my birth certificate. And so I'd been hearing about human design for like a year and a half before I was finally like, I'm gonna find my birth certificate. So I had to reorder it. For human design, you need your time. So I did that. And this is while I'm like working and then doing all the other things on the side. And then I found out that I was a projector in human design and what that meant, which we will probably get into. I'll tell you right now, I just, as a projector, one, my value is in what I see, not what I do. And so I am fulfilled in places where I can like guide. And I was like hustling in my job, like so like doing so many things, working so many hours, recognizing that. So for projectors, we don't have like consistent access to sacral energy because like we kind of have this different role on this earth, which means that most of it, like I'm meant to only work a certain amount of hours per day. Now I can like study all the things, I can like do stuff like this, but I'm only meant to like output a certain amount of hours per day. And so like when I found out I was a projector that like I see deeply, I am super efficient with my energy, but don't have like a ton of it. I just felt so seen. I cried when I found out I was a projector, and I like tons of people on readings when they like first find out their design sometimes do have that like emotional reaction because we realize that holy shit, like all the things I thought were wrong with me are not. And am I like just allowed to be who I am and do things that already felt good, like instinctively, intuitively felt good to me, but you know, society, our conditioning, our jobs tell us like we need to be doing things a certain way.
Yeah. There's such a validation in it.
And permission. And I think the biggest thing is if we can lessen our resistance to anything, like we're conserving energy. We spend so much energy like resisting change, resisting what we need to do. And a lot of that resistance comes from when we're not doing something that's in alignment with our natural flow, or when we are like have these beliefs about the way we should be, but we want to be another way.
Yeah.
And I know for me and many other people, we've taken these business programs and all these, strategy courses where someone's just going to teach you, here, I did this, here's this, it should work. It worked for me. If it doesn't work for you, what does that say? Like,
yeah, it's like, if it doesn't work for you, you're not doing it right. You're not implementing it right. You know, you're wrong. Like you're just not doing it. There's something that you're not actually doing out of the strategy if it doesn't work for you, right? That's what we're told.
Exactly. And that just causes more resistance because now we think that like we are not good enough and like we just need to work harder, when usually we don't need to work harder. We need to step back and rearrange the energy around it and figure out what our path of least resistance is. Because we can work super hard. We can I was getting paid really well at my job. I was working super hard. I was not happy. I was drained. I was like super resistant. I hated going to work. And like, that is obviously like no way to live. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that. And so when I was doing theta healing, so that's the modality that goes into like of the limiting beliefs. We would be inside the theta brainwave for a while, digging, we call that digging, to get to the core belief of like what the issue is. with human design, your chart will lead you straight there to what's probably out of alignment for you in a given situation. So it was just this, like, so what I was doing with theta healing and psychotherapy and all the other things was trying to lead someone to their truth. Like, that's all, that was what it was about completely all the time. Like, the main thing was leading them back to their truth so that they can get into alignment of it. I was never giving anyone the answer. I was like leading them to it. And so with human design, it's like I get to lead them to the, not like to the solution all the time. It's like I get to like lead them to their own inner guidance system so that they can go and like find the solutions to everything.
Which is way more empowering as well for, like, you know, it removes you from being like from the pedestal that people can put different healers on, right? Like, because I don't believe really in the word like guru or anything like that, because like for me, I'm like, well, that just puts someone on a pedestal above, you know, the person who is seeking guidance. But really there's this empowerment and giving back, like in the work that you do, you're giving them back, you're giving them this understanding, and then they get to let that land and then choose what they do from it from there and feel into what feels right for them from there, right?
Exactly. And it's like less, you know, pressure, like all I have to, you know, it's like I'm just the channel, like it's my job to know as much information about it as possible, and then when I get in front of someone, just let the channel flow. And like when we talk about conserving energy, like being in flow, like that is flow, when you are able to like turn that on, like what works for you, and just like be the channel for whatever gifts are coming through you, and like understanding that on an energetic level. Because, and I say all the time, our titles are just placeholders for the frequencies we embody and the space that we hold for other people. So
can you say that again, because that was really like
so because we always talk about like what are we, like Alicia is this or whatever, it's like, and labels are, you know, they serve a purpose, but like what I help people do is like really understand the frequency underneath of like what they're actually doing, so that anything that they do is just an extension of that. But what I said was our titles are just placeholders for the frequencies we embody and the space that we hold for other people. And when you can connect with that, it's like, what program do you want to do? It doesn't matter. Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, these are the like frequencies I'm embodying. This is what I'm actually helping people with. Like, when you're connected to those deeper desires and purpose, then everything else, like the strategy just becomes much more clear. When you're in alignment, when you can align with the frequency of your desires and then use your own inner guidance system to like guide you along the path of least resistance, like that is
and how much healthier would we collectively be? Like, you know, we'd be far less stressed. It's not that we wouldn't experience stress, but we'd be way less stressed than what we are, because there's an ease in things. Because like this is something that's come up in different sessions that I've done in the last week as well. Like, not everything has to be hard. Not everything has to be through the path of most resistance. Sometimes, and most of the time, it gets to be easy, but how do we allow that, and how do we stay in that?
Yes. And with me growing up, one of the things that I've worked through, and it comes up sometimes, and I'm always kind of working through my own beliefs, is that like struggle is noble. Like that's the noble way to be. And like it's a good thing. It's, if you're not struggling, you're lazy, or
absolutely. It's like, oh, you're working so hard, like, you know, good on you, and it's like, good job. And it's this whole perception of value and what that means, and it's ultimately unhealthy.
One thing that you had said that I was going to comment on was like us being our own guru and not like loving the word guru in terms of like something external outside of us.
Yeah.
I remember like, so do you know Abraham Hicks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I like love her, you know, it's like, that was part of like my, like back in the day when I was like first awakening, I was like, oh my God, we create our own reality. What? Like,
yeah, it was like this, wow, okay, cool, awesome. Like, give it all, like, give me.
So I like when somebody was asking me about like it being a religion or like it, what's the difference between that and like someone who like, not a cult, but you know, following someone. Yeah. And I said like my own discernment is always, is the mentor guiding you toward your own inner guidance, or are they having you like follow theirs?
Ooh,
and if,
like, I like that. Yeah.
And so in any coach, any mentor, anything that I do, like people embody different frequencies and we need certain mentors for certain reasons, but like if the coach, the mentor, the therapist or whatever is good and like really has your best interest, then they're going to guide you back to your own inner guidance and your own tools too. And so that's, you know, I mean, we were doing, like I was doing that in therapy too, but this is just like a whole nother level. So going back to, so now I'm knowing I'm a projector and I'm like, holy crap. And then obviously my job was just like, it was just at that point, it was already unbearable. And then I understood. So what happened was I started understanding myself as a projector as like an energy, like my energy, the way it interacts with the world, the way it is like, for a projector, my aura, I'm talking about communication, like our aura speaks for it, you know, our aura introduces us before like we do. My aura is really penetrative. So for a projector, I'm supposed to wait for the invitation to lead and guide. And when you're in the hospital, when people have to see you, like I'm not invited to lead and guide. And so like, that's where the resistance is coming from there. So I'm like trying to help all these people that don't want my help all of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and like for me, my aura is so like, it goes into the other, it's penetrative. So it can feel almost like if it's not inviting, if it's, if I'm giving, leading, guiding, giving advice, it could feel almost like invasive. And so I was wondering like what was going on with that sometimes. I mean, there was a different kind of patient population that I was working with, but sometimes people would have to see me. And so those were the people that would drain me the most. And so I just started realizing like, I'm not doing myself any favors or anyone else by being here. And when we don't use our gifts, so when we're talking about 9 to 5s, you know, people are waking up to purpose. When we're not using our gifts, like we are not fulfilled. There is something in us that says like something is missing here. And a lot of times we don't know what that is until we figure out what that is, and then we can like use it. And so you don't have to use all of your gifts in one role. Like you could use it being a mom, you could use it like in human design, we have channels, we have certain like gifts. And when we don't use those, that's when we're super unfulfilled in our jobs. And like, we don't realize like what's missing because we're not, well, first of all, like we're probably on someone else's time, but also we came here to use our gifts and to know them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't do anyone any favors by like hiding that, because the whole point is like to share what we have to share. And there's always going to be someone that gets something out of that when we're in alignment with our gifts, right?
And what you said earlier, something about like, it doesn't have to be hard, but I recognize that it should not be hard, but doing it is super uncomfortable. Like that's the hard part.
Yeah. It's
like stepping in,
stepping out of conditioning.
Yes. Because, and that's why compassion and love and reparenting is like so important, because if we don't have compassion for ourselves and we wake up in a situation where like we've noticed where we've contributed to like a lack of boundaries or something, like if we don't have compassion for ourselves to like move through that, like we'll never look at our own shit again.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be too hard.
Exactly. We're just going to be like getting down on ourselves and telling ourselves like how like useless or whatever word it is that we are, because we have we need to have that compassion. And I think that's sometimes what's so challenging about doing the quote unquote the work, is because it asks us to kind of reflect on those things that we may have been a contributor to in the ways that we could be a contributor to, obviously outside of like systemic things, but reflect on things that we've been a contributor to just because we were doing the best with what we knew at the time, and now we know better. But it can be very humbling to know better.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's so many times where I've recognized certain things, but it's like, I just want to be free. I want to be free from like conditioning of other people, but like also like free from my own like illusion too. Like we often, believe false things that were kind of like placed upon us, like beliefs, but like we do that to ourselves too. And like, we can trick ourselves into thinking like all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
And it's not our fault, but it's like, I think someone said, I forget who it says, like, oh, it's not your fault if you're so like messed up, but it's your fault if you choose to like stay in certain situations and like repeating the same patterns, like wanting a different like outcome.
Yeah.
And really, this isn't like the work to fix ourselves isn't anything more than like us just like trying to recalibrate the frequency of like love and being in our own power. So it's not like we need to do this, but it's like, it feels good to raise our frequency. And then we get all sorts of like cool things that come along with raising our frequency too.
Yeah, it's like, it feels, the way I describe it is like, it feels like that shit show, and then it feels better, and things continually get to feel better, and you feel more capable. Your like capacity expands to be able to handle the shit show as it comes up, versus continually digging your head in the sand and just dealing with like this continued sense, like this was my experience, like this continued sense of not being fulfilled and just not being excited about anything, and and just feeling buffeted around by the waves of life and at the mercy of all of that, and not really knowing what to do with it. And that's super unsatisfying as well. Like, that's not exciting, that's not joyful, that's not empowering in any way. So to me, it was like, okay, well, I could either continue like this, or I could do a little bit of hard work, a lot of hard work, but over time, like sometimes it's not always continued hard work, but I could do some of that uncomfortable work and then feel better than what I, like continually have this experience of feeling better, not because everything is perfect, but because I see my flaws, or I'll see my experience in a different lens and a different light, and that feels better, that feels healthier.
So good. Yes, I think I was saying earlier this week maybe that actually, speaking of Guru Jagat, or however you say her, who passed this week, I got this from her. It's so weird. I posted this, I got it from her. It was about, we call, like, when, like, we want to manifest all these things, we want all these things, and when they come like all at once, it's stressful. Like, there's so many things to, there's like, there's so many things to do. Like, I'm moving into a new home right now, I'm planning a wedding, I've just launched a mastermind, like, and I like thought about what she said, which was something to the effect of, we don't want less problems like in our lives, we want to expand our capacity to receive and hold all that we are asking for.
Yeah,
because actually, another thing is like, we want all those things, they come, but like, it requires a lot out of us, like good stress, but it's still like, if we want more, we have to expand our capacity to receive and hold it.
Yes. Oh my God, I loved it when you shared that, because that really landed for me. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's like, it's it's not demonizing stress as such. And, you know, even on like psychological levels, you could look at how that's important, not to demonize stress, because stress is important in some ways, but it's the extension of the capacity to go, oh, what I really want is to feel capable of like holding these things, because these are all things that I've asked for. These are all things that I've been dreaming of. And
Yes.
instead of feeling constantly like, well, if business is going well or work is going well, my personal life has gone to shit, or like, it's always one or this or that. It's like, what about that capacity holding of, I get to have all
Everything.
of the things. I get, everything. Like I get to have business or work going well, like my professional life going well, and have a fulfilling relationship, and have a really nourishing family life, and have a great, like I get to be able to hold all of that with capacity, because I like, it's a stretching, so there's the discomfort, and then you get to experience it, then you get to hold all of it rather than having to pick and choose or sacrifice.
Yes. And for me, it's been a journey of allowing support in, like, because if I want to be involved in all these things that I'm creating, there's only like so much of me. So how do I resource myself internally and externally for these things? So internally is the Kundalini, the soul flow, the yoga, like resourcing ourselves to be able to hold that energy within ourselves. And then also like, what do we need outside of us? What do we need to call in for us to be able to like do these things and stay in our zone of genius? And that's what like human design helps with a lot too. Knowing what you are, where you're strong in and how your energy works, then you can collaborate with other people that have different energies. And so it like creates this where there's no gaps. And everyone's doing what they want to do, like in their own way, and it like works together. Because for me as a projector, I feel like I keep saying that like I don't have energy. I do have energy. It's just like I have to. It's got to be used in a certain way, and so I am better at seeing things from up above and being able to delegate. And part of my deconditioning was the support, because I thought I had to do everything by myself, or else I was like lazy and also like not strong enough too. But then I realized if I want to be big and strong, I have to be able to have support. So it was like this whole paradigm shift.
I think that's a whole like running your own business lesson also, is delegation and going, yeah, okay, I can delegate this thing. So for those who may not have heard of human design before this conversation, so there are 5 or 6 different types of.
So there's 5 energy types. And yes, sorry, I was like, should I stop this?
No, you're all good.
This conversation. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about. So for everyone listening, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So human design is this like, it's a system. It was channeled by this man named Ra Uru, and he's no longer with us anymore, but it's a combination of I Ching, astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah, and really it's our energetic blueprint. It's kind of like on a metaphysical level, if our soul like made a contract with the universe about what we came to do, the tools we needed, the gifts we needed, and like what was going to fulfill us on an energetic level. Because remember, like the titles are just placeholders for the energy. The energetic blueprint, how our energy, like how we exchange energy with the world, and how we are guided along our own path of like least resistance, how we connect to our own inner guidance system, and how we're motivated, like how our minds work, how we are naturally motivated to like go after what we want. And all of that is just like a tool for deeper self-exploration, so that you can know yourself better and have the ability to choose what you do with it too. Because a lot of times we just don't even have the awareness of, somebody in a reading said, when we were talking about this channel, so there are 5 energy types and there's channels and gates and all the things, but with this channel, it was like a channel of judgment, and it was really being able to spot things that needed fixing. And so we talked about how to use that in a higher expression, because everything in human design, there's a lower expression and a higher expression. So you can either be leaning into something that's not as healthy, or like you can be leaning into the healthy part of that. So everything is neutral. It's what you do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been trying to heal my way into being wired differently, instead of just realizing that this is a gift.
Mm.
So to me, that embodies a lot of the energy of like what all this is about.
Yeah.
Is understanding how you're wired, understanding how your energy works. And when I say energy works, so there's 4 aura types, there's 5 energy types. And so this is what usually people talk about when they talk about human design. They talk about the manifester, the generator, manifesting generator, projector, and reflector. And so really, it's kind of like if it was a car, it'd be like the type of car you drive. And it's, for the manifester, it is the energy, like how they exchange energy with the world. Like they exchange energy with the world by, so their strategy is to inform, but like I like to talk about the frequencies that these types embody the most. And so for the manifester, they're really meant to initiate, and like they're the fire starters. Like in an embodied role, they are the innovators, they influence change, they start the things, so they're super impactful. Like that's their, like when they're embodied, they are feeling free, like impactful, excited, and they can influence the people around them. So we all kind of have these like embodied roles on an energetic level, but so that can look like so many different things though. Just because you're a manifestor, like it's not about like the role you get put in, it's also like how you do it. Like it's not about like what you do, it's the energy that you're coming from with it. So the manifester, the deconditioning around that is like, because they have such a big juicy aura, a lot of times when they're smaller, they get this subconscious programming that they shouldn't be so big. You know, like when they're just being themselves, it's kind of big. So, you know, don't speak so loud, just you know, be a little bit quieter, and you have some
use your inside voice, right? I'm a manager.
And so like the easiest way for me to talk about this is like, okay, because there's a strategy of like how you do it, and then you're so with this though, just thinking of the manifester as like the sacred path going, when they are in alignment, they will feel peace. And when they are out of alignment, just meaning like they need to regroup, they'll feel anger. So the sacred path is like leaning into the peace and noticing when you're in the anger, like noticing, because that's the not self. And the peace is like really what you embody when you are like living in alignment, when you're in flow, when you are embodying your gifts, when you know you are tuned in. And it's so funny because for me, I'm obviously not a manifestor. Peace doesn't really, I mean, I think everybody wants peace, but like peace, it doesn't resonate. But it's not like a word.
Yeah,
it's not like, oh yeah, I really want that every day. I'm like, I feel like I wake up pretty peaceful, but that doesn't mean like I'm like, well, probably because I'm a projector, so I'm just like waking up like kind of a little bit slower and more intentional. But so usually when I say these things, they do like resonate. There's this like energy of like, oh yeah. And anger doesn't really resonate with me as much either as it would for like a manifestor. So that's the manifestor. So then there's, and so with the manifestor, they don't have, it's a non-energy type, like quote unquote for the podcast, non-energy, just meaning they don't have their sacral defined, which means that they don't have continuous access to this life force energy. So really they're meant to start things and guide, and then like kind of like take a step back, like not finish everything into completion. They're really meant to start and like delegate.
Yeah, let other people finish it.
Yeah, and so it's tough when, so the manifestor usually, their sacred compass, so we all have a sacred compass, and like what we kind of can like what's kind of like leading us, and for them it's their like divine energy that gets downloads from the divine and is supposed to act on them, like it's supposed to do something. So they're guided by their like, however you say it, downloads, urges, like their ideas.
Yeah, they're nudges.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and we all get them, but like they're the only energy type that is supposed to like just initiate and start going and start making it happen. And then there's the generator, and the generator is an energy type. They have this like sacral life force energy defined. And so they are really just like, it's like they're the life force energy. They old human design used to say they were like the workforce. I like to say, like, it's not the work that they do, it's the energy that they create when they're doing something that lights them up. So it is the doing, but it's not in the doing that their value is, it's in the doing that creates the energy for us all to like feel and ride off of.
That feels way healthier also.
Yeah, no one is supposed to like, oh, you're meant to work, like, no. And honestly, although I'm jealous of generators, like I wish I like it. So my dad, my mom, my sister, so I grew up with 3 people in my household, all generators. My fiance is a generator, and if you believe in dog design, my dog is a generator as well. I'm a generator in my field, okay?
Yeah.
But again, like I can feel this. So when he's lit up, like that's why I always try to make sure, like as my like I said, my fiance is a generator, like make it. I'm like, have you like, even though he like likes, he's gotten into like collecting cigars lately, and I'm like not about that at all, but like I'm like encouraging it because I know that's like I want him to like be in that, like, because when he like, even when they're doing something that has nothing to do with work, if they are lit up, it recreates energy. It recreates that life force energy. It's like a gas tank. They fill it up, and like they're meant to fill it up and like use it throughout the day. And so talking about like conditioning, something to let go of for that is doing for other people more than they do for themselves. And this is for you as a Mani-Gen as well. Communicating, like when we talk about like leadership and communication, really making sure that you guys, because you are a generator first and foremost, but you also are a manifesting generator, are doing like what lights you up. When people talk about like the energy of your desires, like, yes, we're all supposed to have desires, but like you guys specifically, like you guys have a duty to do things that make you feel good, because that's where the energy comes from. And usually it is the doing that makes you feel good. But it's gotta be this like, so for the generator, it's the doing, it's like the mastering something, like they are here to like master something and respond to things. So the manifestor initiates, but the generator is really here to respond. And so what that means is really you guys just get to let life come to you and then respond to it. And it's like, say yes or no, like, this is what I want to do. This is, you know, and the sacred path is satisfaction, flow, contentment. And then the, not like the misaligned portion of it is like frustration. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we're good. We got like 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, keep talking. Yeah. So that's the generator. Okay.
And so, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you can kind of like start to see, because you have to look through conditioning as well. Like, you know, because conditioning, like in the epigenetic health coaching that I do, it's like, yeah, you can see how conditioning tells us we should be something. So we've gotten into those things of like, well, this is confusing because it's like, but what's beyond the conditioning? What actually lights you up? And yeah, it's just interesting.
And the biggest question, especially when there's a lot of conditioning for the generator. Okay, so we all have these kind of like, for lack of better word, like kind of wounds that happen usually with our own energy type, just because of how things are. So with the generator, like having that juicy life force energy, subconsciously, parents, other people like pick up on that, and like you will like start to do for other people, and then get into the habit of, I am like worth what I do for other people.
Yeah. Yep. Which is a good reminder for anyone, but especially if you feel like you really latch onto that as well. That's yeah.
Yeah. And just remembering that, like, it's like you being so filled up that like your cup runs over onto other people. Like that's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy. So a lot of people say sometimes when people are so used to being in conditioning around doing for other people that they like, you know, and a lot of moms go through this, especially generator moms, just knowing that things are often, they're always coming to you. Life is always bringing you things to respond to. So what does that mean? If you don't know, if nothing's lighting you up, like make more space. Make more space within yourself, within your life, like say no to more things. And the yeses will like naturally come, but it's usually that like, it's not that you need to go find something to respond to. It's usually that you got to do less. It's usually in human design, it's about doing less kind of. It's like,
which I love. I'm like, let me do less.
Well, because, okay, so with the generator and manifesting generator, because you need to respond, responding is only in the present moment. So when you are rehashing the past or future tripping, you're missing what's right here in the moment. And then like, that's like where your power is. And it's like, almost like if, you know, for people that feel guilty about that, it's like, okay, no, it's actually your duty to be present enough to catch the things that are going to light you up, because like we don't work in a vacuum. Like you're meant to do that role for a reason. So what the good thing that you think you shouldn't be doing, like I might need, you know what I mean? So it's like we all kind of have these roles, and if this like guilt or selfishness that we can feel sometimes, I mean, when we first started learning about our design, but it's the conditioning of that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's like leaning in and really just allowing, like say, okay, I'm going to take this one step, like universe, like you better show up for me, like show me that this works. Like I tell everybody, don't take anything that I say, like, and just take it for truth, like play with it. Because words can only say so much. It's the experience that teaches. And I can only say so many words. Usually like I'm pretty good with that energetically to see if something lands. But like, if you just read a human design book, they're giving examples of things. But if you take that one example and apply it to every single thing, you're going to feel super limiting. It's going to feel like you're put in a box. You're going to feel like you can't, like there's certain things that you can and can't do. You can do everything. It's just about reframing it and coming from the energy that is most like aligned with your type.
Yeah.
So with the third one, the manifesting generator, which is, you know, kind of a hybrid of manifestor and generator. So you guys are generators, but you guys have this extra layer to you. You guys are like the superhumans of the world who can do so many different things because you have this generator, this life force energy, and then the manifestor is this kind of like initiating energy. So you like are usually fulfilled by having multiple projects going on at the same time, skipping over things. Like really, you guys are meant to like break the mold and like do things your own way. And that's kind of like an important role that you guys are playing right now, because we're really like tearing down structures and like good because you guys didn't want them anyways. It's like you guys have this inner guidance system that's like taking you to the things, but what happens besides the giving and the doing for the manifesting generator is you need to stick like the not self the thing that you need to decondition from is I need to be linear. I need to only do one thing or else I am unreliable, like I'm inconsistent. Giving yourself that flexibility to be able to pivot based on your strategy and authority, and allowing yourself to really, because it's not, for you guys, I like to say, it's not about the creation. Like for you guys, what lights you up is the process of creation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you think about it, like not feeling guilty for not bringing everything into fruition, of course, like, you know, you have to have boundaries and like good habits and things like that. But like in general, it's not the thing that you've built usually that's going to like do it for you guys. It's the process of creation. And it's like, what can I do next? Like, what's being called from me? And so now I'm getting these urges because I am part manifestor. I'm getting these urges. Now, what is the universe bringing to me so that I can respond to that? Because you still have to wait to respond. You're not a manifestor, so you can't like just go and initiate. So it's this dance, it's like co-creation with life. Like I'm getting divine downloads. Now I'm waiting for something to pop up right in front of me that then I can like act on instead of going to go look for things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what can get you stuck or frustrated. And that again keeps you kind of rehashing the past or like in the future. So you guys, the embodiment of like excited energy and flow, and you smiled when I said that. I love that.
Yeah, it's like it's all about the joy for me. Yeah,
the joy, the excited energy, like feeling adventurous and feeling free too. Because that's, you know, you have that part manifestor in you, but you guys are really just here to like show, like break all the rules and show people what's possible. Like, you know, Tony Robbins is a manifesting generator, like so many, like I think Elon Musk is a manifesting generator. It's like a lot of like, you know, people that can hold, like we're talking about capacity. You guys, and in alignment, have crazy capacity to hold things. It's so impressive. That doesn't mean you should be holding everything, but like, but the capacity is like definitely there. And so for you guys, it's this kind of like constant reassessing of whether this thing is still lighting you up or not.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Do you feel like you've ever kind of like stayed in something longer because you feel like you should keep doing it?
Absolutely. Or like through necessity, like survival, you know, in business, it's sometimes like, well, I can't let go of that right now because I need it and I need to like, you know, but for me, it's being aware of something long before I feel like I'm in a position to act on it. So it's like that awareness of like, yep, okay, cool. That's that thing. Awesome. So I can work towards, you know, like in business, it's like I can work towards it. So that way it's not, you know, reliant on it anymore, but it is definitely something that shows up where it's like this awareness of, cool, okay, that's not lighting me up anymore. And either looking at ways of like, could I shift something and then see if that changes how I feel about it, or going, you know what, I need to kind of just. But what's the not self theme for Manny Gens?
So the not self theme is a mixture. It's the frustration, which is like I don't even know if I said this about generator, but it's like the lack of flow, frustration. You're frustrated because you're not going for it, like you're stuck, kind of.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of it could be a mixture of, depending on like your chart, of frustration and some anger too. And I think you had mentioned that earlier with like, you know, a lot of the things that have been going on with this pandemic, there's like that like frustration and anger, like totally.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting once you sort of recognize that, because then it helps you sort of go, cool, okay, what can I do to shift out of that. Not how can I avoid this feeling, but what can I do?
It's just feedback.
Yeah, exactly. For the sake of time though, we might move on to reflectors.
Okay, so projectors really quick. The projector is, so our energy is like, we are like meant to guide, and we like see things really deeply, guide the collective. We are, so our not self theme is bitterness, which I totally resonate with. And then our self theme is success, which really just means like us contributing our gifts to the world. Like us being like, following what we're fascinated by and contributing in some sort of meaningful way. Like that's what lights us up. So, and the projectors are like the newest energy type on this planet, because as we're shifting into the new paradigm, I'll just say this really quickly, that like people are waking up to purpose, and we're not, you know, obviously needing to like forage for our food anymore, and like we're living a lot longer. So we have the luxury of taking a look at our energy and like being like, so the projectors they say that we're the newest type on the planet, because like we're here to kind of like help with that too.
That makes total sense.
And then the reflector is, so when you look at a reflector's chart, they're completely open, meaning that they have all energy centers open. So they're really like, they have this sampling aura where they can kind of try other energies on, and they're, you know, very, they could be very sensitive because they are so open, but they really reflect, like reflector, right? They call it reflective, reflect back to the collective, like how they're doing, because like they mirror back to you, like the energy that you're putting forth. And so, gosh, God bless them. I'm sure it's like a difficult thing, because they need to, for them, they need to kind of like just wait for 24 hours to be able to like to decide things. Are really meant to like go with the flow, and their not self theme is disappointment, and their energetic alignment sacred path theme is it's a surprise, but I like to say like that feeling of like awe, like being like, you know, that feeling of like oh my God, it worked out, or like, oh my God, this is better than I even thought it would be. Instead of trying to predict everything and being disappointed by it. So that's the path for the
oh my gosh. I feel like that's just very surface level. Like it feels like it was very detailed, which was amazing. Thank you. But like that's still surface level of what you can have this understanding about yourself as well. So I definitely, if you're watching or listening and you're curious, I definitely recommend like starting to explore that as well, because it can help just even on the surface level, like even knowing the self and not self themes, like, or the energetic alignment and not self themes has helped me go, oh, okay, so when I'm feeling frustration, for me, because I do a lot of boundary work, I teach a lot of boundaries work as well. I'm like, oh, where don't I have boundaries, or where am I not upholding boundaries? And then often that's the case. I'm like, oh, there it is. And then I can like, whew. So
I love that. Yes. Boundaries, yes. And really, like when I found out I was a projector, I literally just was like, oh, okay, this is how my energy works. I'm just going to follow my strategy and authority. And I've been doing that. Like, it got me like, I would not have, I mean, I know I teach human design now too, but like, it was not until I found out I was a projector, how I learned to like move out, like you navigate challenges through that. And like, or you're being, instead of like being pushed out of things, you're like being called by something, by like your own inner guidance.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely a process, but it's really, really powerful. How can people find and follow your work?
At It's Alicia Lauren on Instagram, and it's alicialauren.com. There's my website, and pretty much
I'll include
mostly on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And to get your body graph, if you want to like look up your own human design, you can go to jovianarchive.com, and I'll give you that too. So just in case anybody doesn't know there and want to see.
That's a great idea. Oh my God. Thank you for such a rich conversation. I feel like we covered like so many good things.
I feel like I went off on a tangent.
No, it was perfect because it's so useful. It's so useful for people to have this understanding. And I feel like it needed to start there before we even explained about human design itself, because it was your journey and your process and your experience, which is where the value is in sharing and understanding and hearing that from other people. So I'm very, very grateful for you.
Thank you for having
joining me. And I've loved it so much.